Dang, I think a cat's been living on my car. Look at all these little micro scratches on that roof spoiler. And then got this oxidation all over the spoiler. Gotta take care of that today. Hey guys, welcome back to more quarantine projects. So like I was explaining in my break video that I was going to do the clear coat on my spoilers on my IS250. I've got these carbon fiber spoilers that I bought on eBay. I've had them in the car for about 2 years now, and the top, the clear coat's basically just oxidized and worn off, and same with the trunk spoiler. It's starting to wear off. You saw my video, if you guys didn't check out my video, when I was trying to buff all these, hoping that it would get it all cleaned up and at least get rid of the oxidation. That helped for a little bit, but it's starting to come back on, especially down here where it was a little bit oxidized before. Now I can still see it coming back now when you look closely. That top one has been really bad since that last time when I was buffing it. It looked good for a couple days, and then once it got in the elements, it just got bad again. So I'll show you guys a little bit closer to what it looks like, and then but what I'm going to do is prep these. I could just leave them on the car and do it the ghetto way, tape it up, whatever. But I like to do stuff the right way. So I'm going to actually take it off. I've got the 3M tape on here, and I've had these on for probably a little over 2 years. Yeah, I'm going to take them off. I'll probably have to use some fishing line or dental floss or something to kind of get the 3M tape off. But once you get it going, it should pop right off, and then clean it up and then use new tape to get it all back on. So I'll show you closely how everything is looking right now. So like I was saying, you see that this top spoiler got like these they look like cat scratches in them, but what I suspect is they're like China carbon fiber spoilers. They didn't really clear coat it. I think it was just the resin, the shiny, because the resin usually gets pretty shiny once they apply that resin. So that wet resin is just kind of worn off, you know, the last 2 years being out in the sun when I'm parked at work, and just kind of showed up out of nowhere. So I'm gonna have to, what I'm gonna do, since I am gonna take them off to paint them, but it's easier to prep them while they're on the car. It's not moving around, so I'm gonna sand it down. This top, I'm probably gonna have to take it probably down to 400 just to get rid of these scratches, and then from 400 get up to 600 just to get it smooth. And then once it's about 600 is good for the clear adhesion. This back spoiler, I don't know. Yeah, you could kind of see it in the reflection right there. See that's oxidation right there, right here. See, you can see kind of in the light. I have to clear that. The clear on this, or the resin or whatever they had on it, is a little bit better. It's held up much better than the roof spoiler has. The one thing that's annoyed me since I got it, which I didn't really care at the time, was there's a little chip right here in the clear. So I'm gonna have to sand that down with a higher grit. I'm gonna do the rest of the top of this with 600 because the clear is still pretty good. There's no major imperfections, so I'm gonna do it 600. But that piece I might have to go down to like 320 or 400 just to get that smoothed out, and then so that way when I get the clear on, it's nice and solid again right there. And that's the only imperfection. But the edges on here were I didn't really like either when I first got it, so I'm gonna probably try to clean those edges up a little bit, get them a little bit smoother and rounded. It's that resin edge that they did when they were making this spoiler. But anyway, I'm gonna do I'm gonna prep that most of what I can on the car, take the spoiler off, and then all the edges I could prep when it's off the car. So start off, I just ended up I'm using some 600 grit sandpaper, a bucket with some water to wet sand, and just regular, I'm just using my Meguiar's car soap right now. You could use dishwashing liquid, or dishwashing liquid Dawn is probably a better choice, but I don't have any of that right now. I'm gonna go with a piece of 400 now for this little spot that I need to fix. So I got it all nice and sanded with the 400 and then the 600 to get it kind of scuffed up for the clear coat. If you looked at that one imperfection spot right here, I got that thing down nicely right there. You can't even tell that it was ever chipped or cracked. If you touch it, you can kind of feel where I took the resin down enough to get rid of that little crack, but let me zoom in on that. Down it is right there, that spot right here. So once I hit it with the clear coat, fill in any of the little cracks or hairlines left in that little spot, and overall the rest of it's nice and good. I'll go ahead and hit this with a scuff pad, 3M scuff pad. That'll be my final preparation on this for now, at least the surface. Once I have it off, I'll do all the edges I was talking about that was still kind of rough. I'll use a lower grit sandpaper to get those things smoothed out before I So I hit it with the 400. It got most of the lines out, but there's still some deep ones. So I'm gonna hit some 320 on it now. So after hitting it with 320, I still got a bunch of microscopic lines in the carbon. So it didn't cut deep enough into this resin to get a lot of these microscopic lines out. So I'm about to try like a 220 now, but I gotta be very slow on that 220. That way I make sure I don't burn into this clear coat or this resin too much. The main thing is trying to get all these little microscopic lines out. Right there you can see in the reflection now on that side that's dry. So just got to get it low enough where it can cut into that, and then I can smooth it out going up. So I got some of it down, but you can still see there's a lot of those microscopic lines still left in the paint. I'm gonna try one more thing. I'm gonna try to dry sand it with a like 400 grit, see if that helps, because it seems like when I wet sand, the water or the liquid is getting in these cracks and it's not letting me take it down as much as I want to get these little microscopic cracks out. They look like it's in the resin, but some of the spots I could scratch on it and I could feel it catches my nail like there. So that's enough where I can get it with my nail, so I should be able to take it down with a finer grit with that as a dry sand. So I got it as good as I can on the top here. I'm just hoping that once I lay down the clear coat that everything evens out and it hides a lot of those microscopic lines. I think it's in the resin that's causing that. It was shiny before it started oxidizing, and that's when those lines showed up. So I'm thinking it's inside the resin. I'm gonna end up taking these off and prepping them once they're off the car on the edges, and then clear coating them. I'm gonna remove the spoiler first. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get this little squeegee thing that I have and just get it right up in the corner here and kind of lift the tape up. So that came off pretty easy. I forgot that I had put some of these strips on here before, but it looked like they didn't even, I guess they barely adhered. Looks like all they did was leave a residue behind, the glue residue behind. So when I put it back on, I probably won't end up using these center pieces again. But overall, yeah, it came out pretty good. Left a little bit behind here, but I gotta clean this all up with some, forgot what I used last time. I might have just heated it up and peeled it, but it's only been on here for 2 years, so it's not bad. My previous spoiler was on here for almost 10 years. and that thing was a pain in the ass to take off. But yeah, this tape comes off pretty easily, so hopefully it comes off easy on this side too, so that way I can put the new tape on, you know, without messing with it too much. So the roof one came out pretty easy. If you guys saw my video when I was installing this thing, you know, I'll have a link up in the description here or up in the top of the screen, but yeah, it came off pretty easily. It was mostly all stuck to the glass. I could have just used a razor blade instead of this thing to cut it off, but ended up just using that, so that should be good. Yeah, removing the tape up here is pretty much easier with the razor blade versus the one on the trunk. But yeah, hopefully this backside with some heat will come right off. So I peeled all the tape off. So there's still just a little bit of residue. I end up using just some brake parts cleaner on it. This stuff's not really good for your paint, but the beauty of it, it evaporates really fast. So you just put it on a little towel and then wipe it down, just get it all out. So I did a little bit more inspection of that spot. So it is the paint somehow start bubbling here. This is not good. I'm looking at the spoiler, and it looks like on the spoiler there's a little hole here for the kind of a drain. The thing with these hollow spoilers is they probably can't seal it all good around all the edges, so they have to put some drainage in case there's water or moisture that gets inside, and it looks like that moisture happens to be right at this spot, and it's probably pulling moisture right here, and then over time I guess it's somehow getting under the paint and causing the paint to bubble underneath. It's kind of spreading right along this edge right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tape this edge up, and then maybe I'm going to sand this down a little bit. At least it's covered, that portion is covered. As long as that doesn't spread into this part where that's actually shown, that should be fine. And then on this side I might end up sealing that hole, not put a piece of tape here and let it kind of drain out of the edge right here. Man, that was some tedious work, but I got all the freaking double-sided tape off, got everything nice and cleaned, ready to sand those edges and get them prepped for clear coat and the new tape. One of the things I did, I think right about here, when I was taking it off, it kind of cracked some of the resin right here, so I'm gonna have to put some epoxy down right there around that edge just to seal it up a little bit better. Then I'm gonna seal that hole over here, that drainage hole that they put that's causing all this oxidation and water puddling over here for some reason. I'm gonna go ahead and fill that in and then smooth out all these edges, because these were pretty garbage looking. This is my chance to get them all rounded out and looking nice once I put the clear coat down. Oh yeah, that was painstaking, but I got everything off nice and clean now, so I just gotta do the edges on this and it's ready for clear coat. So on the roof spoiler, the rear is not as bad. I just gotta sand right here along the edge, and then right here at the corners. Some of the corners and sides here are kind of suspect as far as the quality goes, so I just gotta hit those down on these edges and get them kind of smoothed out before I lay the clear on this. So that's what I'm gonna do now for this one. So earlier I showed you that spot that was cracked right here. So what I'm gonna have to do to fix that is I'm gonna have to actually Dremel it down, get it like a little valley in there, and then I'm gonna tape the edge along here so I could keep the epoxy from running over the edge, so it reduces my sanding later. And then on the bottom side, I don't really care. I'm gonna kind of smooth it out with a little card to get it into the grooves and to set. And along this whole edge, there's a little bit of imperfections here and there that I'm gonna have to fill in with the epoxy. So I'm gonna do that and get it as good as I can, smooth out before I proceed with the clear on this one. As far as the roof spoiler goes, I got everything pretty much clear, fixed and done. The only part I didn't like was on the opposite end over here. If you look, it's a little spot right here that's always bothered me, where the resin right here, where the resin didn't go all the way. So I'm gonna probably end up putting in some epoxy into there, kind of fill in that space, so that way I don't have to work down the sanding and smoothing it out. And then once I get that done, hit it with the electric sander, get it smooth out, and then clear coat time. So I got that all epoxied in with that clear weld epoxy from JB Weld. It's a 5-minute set and a 1-hour cure time, so I'm gonna just let it set right there. So I folded that lip so I could actually form the epoxy onto that curve, so I don't have to do that much work when I have to sand it down. I went ahead and used a little bit of that leftover that I mixed, and I put it all on the little pinholes in the clear that in the resin before that I found, and along the seam there and the edge, I filled that in, and I filled in that one drain hole right here because I don't like it because it's messing up the paint on my car. And I'm probably going to drill for venting. I'm going to probably drill it on a high point so it just provides a little bit of venting, but it won't drain onto the paint. It'll just, whatever moisture stays inside the spoiler. I'd rather mess up the spoiler than my trunk. So I've let this spoiler dry for a couple weeks after I put the epoxy on, just because I haven't really had time to work on it. But everything dried up pretty well. The first day or two when I was mixing that weld, I think I didn't mix enough hardener with it, so it took forever to dry, but it eventually dried by just letting it sit out here. So now it's got this thick epoxy layer right here. So I'm going to have to block sand all this down and get it one last sand down before I get it ready for clear coat. So I'm gonna go ahead and, since I plugged up that hole over here, I'm gonna go ahead and drill some new vent holes higher up on the spoiler. So when it sits on the trunk, it's more for venting if there's moisture that gets in than really draining it, because I don't want it draining the corners and messing up my paint again. There it is. That was the original hole. Then I relocated it up about a foot up in and then an inch down on both sides just to kind of give it some vent holes. If you look at the factory ISF, so they also have this hole drilled right here in this one spot, I believe. Before the paint, I'm going to wipe it down with some medium reducer just to get all the crap off of it, get any oils and stuff off of it, so that way it doesn't react to the clear coat when I lay down the clear coat. spray it on this this rack that I have, but it sits. It's right now the edges are sitting on the rack, so I'm gonna have to build off something with some wood or some cardboard to kind of stand it up a little bit, so that way I can get those edges without it touching the bars and then sticking to the bars when the clear coat dries. I found 4 of these little foam self-sticking pads from one of my other projects. I forgot what it's for, but it's perfect for this, so I'm gonna stick one on each of these corners, and then it lifts it up about a 1/4 of an inch thick. So those things work perfect. They elevate it just enough so that I can spray it. It kind of wobbles a little bit, pressure coming out of it. It might teeter a little bit, but it won't touch, so I'm good. So I've got the 2K ready. So what you need to do is shake it for 2 minutes vigorously to get everything kind of mixed up. Get the red cap off. You press it down here to activate it. Make sure you hear that pop. And then once you hear that pop, you're ready to shake it again for another 2 minutes and then spray. So what you want to lay down first, what I'm going to do, I'm going to lay down a light tack coat to kind of get everything settled on the surface. Let that dry for about 15-20 minutes and then come back with another heavier coat. And depending on how well that comes out, I might do a 3rd coat. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. So I let it dry for about 2 or 3 hours now, so it's pretty much dry to the touch and you could handle it. It takes probably a couple days before you could actually sand and buff it. Usually I wait about a week or 2 just to make sure the paint is fully cured. The spoiler came out really good. You could see that there's that eBay quality on the resin. The spoiler is a little bit yellow on that carbon fiber, where the roof spoiler is a little more black and gray. I figure it's the resin that they use, but overall happy with the results. If you remember all those little streaks in the resin on this one, it still shows through. I've got another project where I'm going to be spraying some 2K, so I might do a wet sand on this, kind of get those leveled out and re-hit the spoiler with another coat of 2K. But overall it's pretty good. The trunk spoiler came out pretty good. No major runs or anything. There was a little spot here that I'm gonna end up having to wet sand and buff. Other than that, everything else came out pretty good. Shiny, minimal orange peel. There is a little orange peel, but I will be wet sanding and buffing it once I get it on the car just to get the full shine out of it. But the trunk spoiler is done. The roof spoiler is gonna need some more work. So I'm gonna call it quits for this episode on that. Hope you guys liked the details and the spray on this clear coat of these spoilers. On one of my next episodes, I'm gonna install this on the car, go through the whole install. I've done the spoiler, the roof spoiler install video already, so I probably won't go into detail about that. I haven't done the trunk spoiler one, so that's one of the ones I'll probably record and show the details on getting that trunk spoiler back on the car. So anyways, if you guys like the video, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Talk to you guys next time.